That is you, buddy.
So, are any of y'all going to try to make the games?
I don't know about the first round. I went to ALCS Game 7 last year, so this year I want to go to a World Series game.
Yeah, we got to go to Game 5 last year. That was awesome. The Yankees Game 7 was pretty sweet, too, but nothing like Indians-Astros, that's for sure.
I may have to strip again, but I'll be there.
The Mad Chatter.
Welcome, everybody. This is Dynasty Wise's baseball podcast. We like to call it the Mad Chatter. I am Chad White. With me today is Clayton.
What's up, everyone?
Um,
Trying to get situated here.
Today's podcast is going to be a special one in a few different ways. First off, we would like to congratulate everybody at Houston Preeminence for their launch today. Took a little while to get going, but, you know, it's a new thing for a lot of us. But congratulations to that. And I think real quick, we're going to take a little shot to celebrate the launch of our hopefully new careers here.
Right. Hopefully it all springboards
Yes.
just right. Yep. Thanks to HP, Jason Braddock, and everybody over there.
Everybody
part,
out there at
part
HP.
of the team.
We'll get to all y'all eventually, but we got Pat and Joe off camera here, two more guys on the Dynasty
Producer,
Wise
NAS
team.
producer.
And
NAS
not
producer.
not with us is Brian, Jeff, Spencer. So that's the 7 of us here at Dynasty Wise, teaming up with HP this year. So
And a lot more behind the scenes that help us
yes,
as well. So, I mean,
definitely. So guys, cheers to Dynasty Wise and HP.
cheers, fellas.
Woo! That's fire.
Real good stuff.
All right, on to business. We are we're going to take a look in depth into this upcoming ALDS series between Cleveland and Houston. If there's one thing when it comes to baseball that I think I share a great amount of knowledge about would be the Houston Astros and the Cleveland Indians both. I am a the guys off camera get to keep drinking here. I am a lifelong Houston Astros supporter all the way back. I was at the '86 All-Star game when I was just 5 years old, to many, many, many more memorable games, which I won't go into right now. But I also am the son of some Ohioans, I guess you would call them. So I used to spend a lot of summers.
We
up
call
in-
them Yankees.
Yes. Well, those are a little further north, but
North
I used
of
to spend
Conroe.
used to spend a lot of summers in the Akron area, which is not too far from Cleveland, and kind of grew up on the early '90s Indians, and I just became a diehard Indians fan then. But I love my Astros, but end of the day, I'm an Indians fan, so this is going to be a very fun series for me, fun series in general. I'm going to give you just a bunch of unbiased takes as much as I can be. I really want to give everybody the information needed because, like I said, I follow both of these teams very closely, and I know a lot about them. And I know Clayton knows quite a bit about the Astros as well. So not really trying to prove my Indians to win, just more or less just kind of getting everybody the inside info needed going into this series so you can watch your Astros and, you know, be a little bit smarter. So Clayton, any thoughts before we get going there?
Yeah, well, for me, I would say I'm going to try to be unbiased. That's a lie.
You don't have to be. It's okay.
I'm Houston, the homer, whatever it is. But, I mean, I think it's going to be a good series. I think Cleveland's definitely a respectable team. But, yeah, and I will say this. It is the best part of baseball season, you know, the postseason baseball. Definitely captivated Houston last year with what the run they went on, and everybody's really, really excited around these parts again as well.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, me and Diana, who's in the room as well right now, we got to enjoy going to Game 7 against the Yankees last year in the postseason and Game 5 against the Dodgers in the World Series. That Game 5 against the Dodgers, it's probably the greatest baseball game I've ever witnessed. Just the back and forth, the crowd being into the game. Playoff baseball is just such a fun atmosphere.
Yes, sir.
my first postseason game was actually back in '04, the year before the Astros made it to the series, and got to watch Brandon Backey. For all you little bit older Astros fans, I can even go way back further than that. But Brandon Backey pitched a marvelous game. That place was shaking. We were in the upper deck, and you could just feel the stands shaking from the fans going crazy. It's a great place to watch playoff baseball, Minute Maid Park.
I got a question. Why did they get rid of the mound in the outfield?
Taos Hill.
Taos Hill?
Taos Hill, yeah.
I think it was just
Enough's enough.
It was, yeah.
Okay.
You know, it was kind of a throwback.
Torchy's
Plus,
taco.
plus they were trying to, and because they were trying to expand seating and get more stuff use out of that area. So.
I had that question
I think
asked
a
to me,
couple
and
people did get injured out there as well. I think running or something certain way.
I had that question asked, and I was like, man, I don't know the answer. Let me go to my guys and find out.
To me, it wasn't even Taos Hill so much, but the flagpole in the middle of the field of play was the crazy part about it.
Yeah, like why would you put that
But
there?
that was a whole nother challenge to the whole
Yeah, I
game,
mean, you could've
too.
moved
Running
that thing
uphill trying to
back.
get a ball.
It was literally like 5 feet in front, 5 more feet, and it would have been behind the wall. I mean, I just, crazy.
Imagine Marisnik
It was
out
still a
there
spectacle
diving.
to see.
Yeah.
That's Uncle Drayton there for you. Pew pew.
Yeah. Pow pow. Woohoo! Carlos Slade, $100 million. Woohoo!
Oh,
Pow pow.
man. God, some of the contracts.
Thank
these
you know
teams-
that just goes to show you it starts from the top. There's another team in town that needs to learn from you know the Astros and the Rockets, that winning mentality and doing what it takes the right way. And
Yeah, one day they'll get there, hopefully. But-
we'll jump into that another
All right.
day, I promise.
So you kind of got a little bit of backgrounds here from us. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this series. The key part of this series really boils down to this is probably the 2 best pitching staffs in baseball. Cleveland Indians, first team ever to have 4 guys strike out 200 batters in a season, and how about this? The Astros had 3 guys do it. I mean, just guys throwing heat, nasty junk all the way around. Solid bullpens on both sides as well, but kind of sticking with the starting pitcher. Game 1 is going to be Corey Kluber and Justin Verlander. Corey Kluber's your reigning Cy Young winner. Went 20-7 this year, 222 strikeouts, below 3 ERA, whip. Verlander equally nasty at 16-9 with 290 strikeouts. 252 ERA, 0.9 whip. Those are just amazing numbers for a game 1 in the playoffs.
Ass producer recognizes ass producer, and Verlander is the man.
Oh, yeah. Nobody can argue that one.
I think that's more of a boo producer.
I think he definitely got the best
Yeah.
pull in all of MLB when it comes to the A he's getting.
Yeah, I think this matchup, this series is exactly what playoff baseball is going to be about. And this game 1, between these 2 starting pitchers, I'm thinking, below 3 runs each. If you're lucky, you get to 3 runs. I'm thinking the 1 to 2 run, if they give up any runs before they hand it over, at least 7 innings strong out of each before they hand it over to the bullpen, and then you still got strong bullpens, and it's going to be a slobber knocker.
I mean, really, it could be if both these guys are on top of their game, which I fully expect them to be. I don't care how good a hitting these teams have; they're going to be tough to get hits. So definitely watch out for the pitching matchup in game 1. Bullpens could be the deciding factor. But then we move on to game 2, and you have Carlos Carrasco and Garrett Cole, pretty much 1A and 1B to their aces on their staffs. 17 game winner, 15 game winner. Both over 200 strikeouts, both under a 3.4 ERA. Another just throwing heat, getting guys out type of pitching matchup in game 2. I like Carrasco a lot. He's kind of he's a little bit younger than Kluber is, but he's really developed these last 2 years into a solid. He would be an ace on a lot of teams. Whereas the guy going against him in game 2 is going to be Garrett Cole, who former number 1 draft pick, or former number 1 overall draft pick with the Pirates, who some good years and then just kind of started to fade, fall off, and Astros go out, pick him up, and he's back to his old form, if not better. I mean, having one of the best seasons of his career. And if it weren't for Verlander or Kluber, he might be getting the Cy Young this year.
Yeah, he was on the pace for sure for the longest time. He was the lead dog in the Cy Young. He was unhittable. People couldn't touch him. He was striking out left and right. I mean, he faded off a little, but he still produced. And a lot of credit goes to Brent Strom, the pitching coach for the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of he's the one that's got a lot of these guys pitching at their peak form. Verlander, he's coming here and what did he do? Career innings pitch now, and he's what?
Yeah, 30,
at his age
this year.
And I think, like I said, this game too, Cole and Carrasco, another good matchup. And runs are going to be hard to come by from starting pitching, and even in the bullpen. Like, there's going to be a hard time to score runs in this series. And
we preface that if these guys are on. I mean,
Right.
when you throw hard and you throw strikes, the opposite of that is if you're not missing bats, they're gonna put the bat on the ball hard and a lot of extra base hits and could give up 3-run innings, 4-run innings. That's where it's dangerous when you're the guys who are high strikeout guys. They're usually high home run guys as well, just because they're pitching strikes.
A key part of the Astros batting is right now Correa needs to get out of his slump, and what a time he needs
we're
to
going to
get.
hit on Correa for sure because I got a lot to say on him and Lindor. They both came out in the same draft, and we'll get to that. But
We had I know we asked the question last time, but it's one of those things that do you feel this question open ended to you guys? But I know, like I said, we touched about it on the last pod. Do you feel like it's going to be a full-blown pitching battle all the way through, or do you feel like it's going to be?
It's going to be either one end of the spectrum or the other. It's either going to be a 2-1, 1-0 ball game, or you're going to see, like we did a little bit earlier in the year with these two teams, 10-9, 10-8. It's either going to be a lot of runs scored. I don't see a 6-3 ball game in this mix. It's very possible. It's baseball. You never know, but the way these teams play and the way these guys throw. It's either lights out or the bats are hot and it's all hands on deck from there in the pitching staff. So game 1 and game 2 are pretty set when it comes to the pitchers. I mean, it's already been named and everything. Game 3 is where it kind of starts to get interesting. And FYI, all y'all out there who are listening live and who get on, feel free to send some questions in or join in the talk and the conversation. That's what we're here for. This is about y'all, Houston, the Astros, and Dynasty-wise. So, but Game 3, that's where things can get interesting. Who do you choose to pitch in Game 3? Both teams have 2 solid options from their rotations. Astros could either throw Keuchel or Morton, and the Indians can throw Bauer or Clevenger. Out of these 6 pitchers in the game, in the first 3 games, the 6 pitchers, you're guaranteed to have at least 5 of them that had 200 strikeouts. All of them had at least 12 wins, if not 15 or more. Keuchel's the only one who was lower on strikeouts. Bauer, Clevenger, and Keuchel all had 12, 13 wins. Outside of those, the first 2 game starters all had 15 or more wins. I mean, that's how deep these 2 teams' rotations are heading into the series. So who do you pick? Do you pick Keuchel or do you pick Morton to pitch Game 3 for you?
Me, I would go Keuchel. Like we talked a little bit before we jumped on, I'm going Keuchel Game 3 because Morton's coming off the injury, and I give him the extra day and let him go Game 4. And so Keuchel's 3. He's been pitching really well. So Keuchel for me, Game 3.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it throws a lefty in against this predominantly left-handed switch-hitting Indians lineup. They've got a lot of guys who hit from that side of the plate. So throwing in a lefty in the mix is never a bad thing. As far as the Indians go, your options are Trevor Bauer or Mike Clevenger. As good a season as Mike Clevenger is having, Trevor Bauer has really emerged as what everybody thought he was going to be when he was an early first-round pick. The guy's always had the weird delivery and wind-up in the way he throws the ball, but he finally figured things out this year, and, I mean, he was dominant. The win-loss totals don't show it as much, but, a 2.20 ERA with 220 strikeouts, that's good. I don't care who you are.
Right.
And, last year in the postseason, he had the blister issues with his hand and didn't really get to pitch as much as he wanted to and as effective as he was. I think he's out for, not vengeance, but he's out to just prove how far he's actually come. And so I don't see how the Cleveland doesn't start him in Game 3. And he's the one. He's the guy to me at home in Cleveland in Game 3. That's scary.
Right. Yeah, I agree. You got to. That's what I think. Like Game 3, depending on what the series could be. It could be, 1-1. 2-0. Like if you're 0-2, depending on your team. Like I said, if especially let's say the Astros, if you're definitely up 2-0, I'd definitely go in Keuchel Game 3. He has the rough.
You got nothing to lose.
Yeah, you
can always bring Morton in out of the bullpen behind him if needs to be because.
See, I think he'd be better in the fourth game, and you let Morton start, and then if he falters, you either bring in McCullers or McHugh for like a long relief. Probably McHugh.
I think you're going to see McHugh as that long relief guy in this series if one of these pitchers. I don't think McCullers is going to be that long relief. I think McCullers is going to be that shutdown guy when you got the meat of the order coming up and it's a tight game in the 7th inning or 8th inning. They're not going to Osuna. They're not going to Rondon. They're going to McCullers. McCullers did it in the postseason last year and showed, how nasty, filthy he can be when he just go out there and just throw hard and not worry about going deep into ball games. I brought this up on other podcasts and said it since the day McCullers was drafted by the Astros. I've said this guy is the closer of the future. I just don't think he's got the long-term makeup to be a 6-7 inning guy for 9-10 years in the league. He hasn't done it yet the last 2 years, but like he showed in the postseason last year, the guy can dominate late innings against the best of the best hitters. So me personally, I'd say I still think they're going to do it eventually, but especially this postseason, man. I as an Indians fan, he scares me coming out of that bullpen.
Yeah, I mean. The worst thing is, they know he's throwing the curveball, and you still can't hit it. The Dodgers, he shut them down. The Yankees, they knew it was coming, and he's still just out there delivering. But so was Morton. So I mean, I think, like I said, that you get to Game 4 and 5, and you could go to Morton.
Well, like you said, too, it really depends on the situation. Yeah. If you're 1-1 going into Cleveland, and Cleveland takes Game 3. So now you're down 1 game. I don't see you're pitching Verlander or you're pitching Cole. You're not set. You're setting up to one of those two guys that's pitching in Game 5, and you're making sure you get to a Game 5.
Well, all right. Here's a question for you, Chad. Now I'm going to try and put you on the spot. Let's say, all right. So we have 3 situations. So going into Game 3, you said Bauer, Clevenger. Would your mind change? Let's say if you were at 1-1 or down 0-2 or 2-0. Or are you going?
If you're down 2-0, no, you're still going. I'm definitely throwing Bauer if you're down 2-0. But the only difference is Game 4. If Bauer goes out there and wins Game 3, Game 4 is Kluber.
Right, because you got to do it. And then
and because I mean, that's the great thing about having 4 solid starting pitchers. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about Game 1 in a 7-game series.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm saying. But a lot of managers got definitely a really tough job, especially in this series. There's going to be playing chess.
Yeah, it is a chess match. And you know what? Francona and Hinch are 2 great guys to have that chess match. Both have won World Series. Actually, both have taken teams and won a World Series in the franchises that have never won one before.
Right.
Boston hadn't won one in I couldn't tell you how long. Francona got that monkey off the back there. Got Cleveland to one. Cleveland's been to a few in the last 2 decades, but got Cleveland to 1 2 years ago. And, A.J. Hinch, with what he did with the Astros last year, I mean, it's unbelievable, this managerial matchup and the great minds these 2 guys are. Yeah. Franco, to me, is a Hall of Famer. If Hinch gets that second one, either one of them get a second one, they're shoo-ins for it. But, yeah, the decisions they're going to have to make on these rosters with the pitching staffs and the bullpens, and then even just the bench guys for each of these teams is it's not choices I'd want to have to make.
Right. I think it's crazy. Astros had a little bit of struggles this year, right? But they were still on pace or ahead of last year's record, and then they set the record for wins this year in franchise history. But you would still have Astros fans clamoring, "Fire AJ." And I was like, "Are we going to do that now? Is that where we're at?"
Any guy who says that they're an Astros fan and then turns around and says "Fire AJ" is not an Astros fan.
Right. I was like, get out of here.
Period, man. That guy could have lost 100 games this year, and he's still your manager next year because of what he did last year. So, like we said, Game 1, Game 2 set. Game 3, I think it's pretty much going to be Keuchel and Bauer, if I was to guess at it. And then so Game 4 and Game 5 are really just situational on what the situation is where you're at in the series. If you're up 2-1 or if it's 2-2 or really depends on how that goes. If it even goes that far.
Right.
I see it going that far, but we'll get to that later as well. So kind of going from the starting rotation and moving into the bullpens. Both of these teams made really big midseason trades to pick up back end of the bullpen guys. Astros went out and got Osuna, and Indians went out and got Brad Hand. Both organizations showing that they were willing to go and do what it takes to make this drive for the pennant because they both have legitimate shots at it. Do you like the Osuna pickup? What are your thoughts on him?
Man, I just saw a comment rolling on our live feed talking about the Astros have the best bullpen in baseball. I mean, now that Giles is gone, we can put a claim on that, But I love the Osuna pickup. He came with the controversy of the domestic abuse, and he just finished that up in court. And, charges are dropped. He basically has the restraining order, or they call it a peace bond. But, I mean, I believe in second chances, and I think that he comes in, he shuts it. I think it's a great pick, and I think that's actually what makes us more dangerous is that we do have that guy at the end that can just come in and shut it down. And, Giles, I don't care if we were up by 5. I was nervous every time he came in, so.
Yeah, and, unlike Houston really needed that end of the bullpen guy like Osuna.
Yes, sir.
Cleveland's got Andrew Miller and Cody Allen. Now, granted, Cody Allen's been shaky as of late. So I mean, it kind of hurts things there. But, I mean, Andrew Miller, his performance in the playoffs when the Indians made it to the series, unbelievable. The things that guy was doing, 2-3 innings at a time or, 1 inning versus the meat of the lineup and just, mowing guys down. They didn't necessarily need that closer, but they're the type of team, just like when they made it to the series a couple years ago, you got past the 6th inning, you weren't beating the Indians. You just weren't. Miller was going 2 innings. Allen was shutting you down after that. So he didn't really – the Indians really didn't have to have him, but they needed their bullpen struggled big time at the beginning of this year. That's why they got off to a slow start. This team could have won 100 games just like the Astros and the Yankees and the Red Sox if they hadn't struggled early on in the season with the bullpen woes. They blew games for Kluber and Carrasco left and right. So Indians had to go make that pickup for that reason.
Right. We had a question coming in from Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but do you see Presley being a secret weapon in this postseason?
Yeah, no, definitely. Presley, that was the underrated pickup for them for sure. That guy, he's been one of their best relievers down the stretch.
Lights out.
Yeah.
And then Greg chimed in with Presley being so underrated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Greg's been dropping knowledge over there in the comments. I'm watching, but yeah, I think Presley, what he's doing. So I mean, if you get your 6 innings that you want out of your starters, and you can bring in your Presley in the 7th. If everything went perfect, then Rondon in the 8th, and Osuna to close it out, and that'd be ideal, And
and I think both teams could do it. I think where the Astros have the edge over Cleveland in the bullpen is the depth in the bullpen. They've got McHugh who can do the long innings. Now with McCullers throwing out of the bullpen, that's just even an added weapon. Cleveland's going to throw Tomlin in the bullpen, if I was to guess. That was kind of their end of the season decision. He's a guy who's been hot of late, is, been up and down, had his great moments, his bad moments, but he's a guy that can kind of go in there and do the same thing McHugh can for the Astros if one of the, starters has to get knocked out early. You got the crazy throwing Adam Simber there in Cleveland, that submarine, and, Joe Smith for the Astros, who used to play for Cleveland, submarine himself. I mean, these two teams, Tony Sipp, former Indian on the Astros in their bullpen, these two teams mirror each other. They're very, very, very similar all the way around in their rotation, their bullpen, their lineup, managers, you name it. So, I guess the one thing that to finish off the pitchers here, who else do you keep past the main guys? who do you leave off of this roster? Are you leaving off Will Smith or Will Harris? Are you leaving off Joe Smith? Are you leaving off, Davinsky, or who's the guys that's not going to be on this team?
I think personally, Will Harris has been a little too shaky, and Davinsky hasn't looked himself. And with the emergence of Ryan Presley and Joe Smith and Osuna and McHugh, and then you put McCullers in the bullpen, I think it makes some of those, and Josh James, I think it puts those other guys on the bubble. So those are the kind of guys I'd go with. And Will Harris, to me, I don't trust him. So I don't know if I can put him on my roster, to come in and game on the line. He has that worried look on his face all the time, and that worries me. I need to see confidence.
Yeah, you don't want your guy going out there like,
yeah.
oh crap, this guy's gonna bomb me.
He's worried. He's like, what do I do now? And it's like, well, hopefully you throw it down the middle and strike someone out or something. So
throw it down the middle and do something.
Yeah,
it may not be a strikeout.
Yeah, Harris and Davinsky are on the bubble. Like I said, I like the Joe Smith and McHugh and McCullers and Rondon, Osuna, and all them. Josh James over them too, and maybe even Sip.
Yeah, and the one other guy I can throw in there for Cleveland is their rookie pitcher this year, Shane Bieber. That guy, he's going to have serious consideration for Rookie of the Year. It's going to be tough for him to win it with the Yankees' young guys and the young guy out in Tampa, but he has been very, very impressive for this Indians team. He's going to be one of their big five next year at the end of he's the fifth starter for this team. But I expect to see him coming out of the bullpen as well and maybe throwing some fire. But so that's your pitching matchups for games 1 through 3 for sure, probably, and possibly games 4 and 5 and the bullpen breakdown. From there, it kind of leads into these two lineups. Two lineups that mirror each other very, very, very eerily, actually. When we break it down, we'll just kind of go position by position here. We'll start with catcher. Yan Gomes, all-star,
right?
Made it in kind of as one of the last guys, and Brian McCann, former all-star, who's hurt a little bit at the beginning of the season, but both of these guys are known for handling pitching staffs very well. They've got a little bit of bat to them. They're not great hitters. They got some pop, not high average guys, but what they do behind the dish is where these guys make their money. That's their bread and butter.
Right.
I've seen Gomes throw out some guys. It was crazy. The speed guys that he was throwing out just with his quick pop and release. That makes a big difference for these rotations. I mean, you can thank them a lot for the success these rotations are having. We won't hit on this one that too much because, like I said, it's really not about their bats. It's really more what they're going to do with these pitching staffs.
Right.
Kind of the same thing at first base. I got to give the edge to the Astros in the first base area. Yonder Alonso, great pickup for the Indians in the offseason. He was a high draft pick who got tossed from Cincinnati to San Diego and then to Oakland, and he's kind of landed in Cleveland here and found a good spot. His power numbers, not quite what they could be. 23 home runs. I mean, this guy's got 30 home run capability. He's not a high average guy, but 250 will do. But what he did is he came in and replaced Carlos Santana. He's solid in the field, and he played 145 games, and that's what this team needed at first base. Gurriel, on the other hand, is really having his best season with the Astros. I loved Gurriel coming out of Cuba. Stayed there a lot longer than most guys did. He had some political ties, and plus his little brother still being over there. But I mean, this guy was the guy in Cuba that all these players coming out looked up to. I thought he was going to do a lot bigger things when he first got here. It took him a little time, but you're starting to see that clutchness and that leadership from him on this team. You saw it in the postseason last year, but it really showed during the season this year.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Going to what do we got? Something here?
How do you feel about Sip? Stephanie feels that Sip has been underrated this whole season and can come in and be shut down too.
Oh, great, definitely. I mean, he was lights out for him a couple years ago. Struggled a little bit, and he's really rebounded well. He did the same thing in Cleveland. He had a bad year in Cleveland, and then came out and was almost dominant with them.
Right.
In the year before he went to San Diego. So yeah, he's an up and down pitcher, but when the man's on, he's on.
He's been on this year, and I think he's going to be their first left-handed option out of the bullpen.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, no. I've always liked Tony Sipp.
Yeah.
Even when he struggled, I mean, he's a good pitcher.
Right.
But going back to the lineups, where these teams start to get interesting is the rest of the infield. Indians, late season, pick up Josh Donaldson, and in the process move a guy who's going to be in the top 3 voting of the MVP, Jose Ramirez, over to second base.
Right.
Ramirez, he's a utility guy. He played shortstop, second, third, outfield for them last year, really settled in at third this year. But now he's moved to second. Versus, last year's MVP, Jose Altuve, the heart and soul of this Astros team. It's probably the 2 best second basemen in the league matched up in this game. Former MVP last year, the guy who's got a real shot at MVP this year.
And as well.
I love these 2 guys. These are the 2 hitters in these lineups that I want to see and watch play. Jose Altuve, being an Indians fan, Altuve is one of my favorite players in the game. He's probably my second favorite player in the game right now.
You gotta love Altuve.
Yeah.
Altuve, as our mayor says.
But what the guy can do in the field with his bat, being 5'6", 170, 180. I mean, it's incredible how far he hits the ball. And not only that, he's the guy who drives this team to be what they are.
Right. Yes.
Is it the way he plays the game? I mean, because they say he's one of the most infectious players there is to watch because of the way he plays it.
Growing up playing baseball my entire life and watching the game and just studying it, knowing it, that rubs off on other guys. And a guy like that doesn't allow players on his team to not do the same thing.
Right.
You lift another player's game when they see you going out and running out ground balls and stretching singles into doubles and it just stealing bases when nobody thinks you're even going to have a shot to make it. That kind of stuff rubs off on the other players on your team. It's nobody wants to be seeing that guy do that, and then you go out there and just kind of hit a weak grounder and just kind of jog down to first. You're not going to put up with that when you get back to the dugout.
No.
They're not. And it starts with Jose Altuve.
Right. Yeah. Altuve for sure. I want to go back to Greg's confirming back to the first base matchup how Gurriel leads the league with the runners in scoring position, and he's just been killing it all year. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on that. You were saying how it's infectious, and it really has rubbed off. But not only that, Bregman right now, I'm surprised he hasn't impregnated the whole city of Houston by now.
Impregnated. Is this the new term we're doing here?
He just finished the regular season with a .926 OPS and 83 extra base hits. He became the first player in Major League history playing the majority of his games at third base to hit 50 doubles and 30 home runs in a season.
Yeah, it's
history.
He's a young stud for sure.
And the funny part is he's a shortstop. He's not even a third baseman.
Yes. That's the biggest thing. But with our stud Correa, we thought he was going to be in. But with the injury that came in, he finally got to play in his prime position. He actually really got to show out his skills whenever we were doing the other thing. What was it? The World? Not the World.
Oh, the World Baseball Classic?
No, he didn't get to play that.
No,
much.
he was the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Bregman came out and did the home run derby in the All-Star game, and then hit the home run in the All-Star game. I mean, he welcomed himself back to the stage after the World Series performance last year. The kid's clutch. I mean, he really is, and he's another guy. He's intense when he's on the field. He's hustle all the time. If you need a big hit from this lineup, he's going to give it to you.
Right.
If he's not batting well, the rest of the team picks it up for him. He's the kind of player you want to build your team on. That's why he was, a top 5 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
We got a question coming in from Spencer Davis. He says, does any team in the National League have a chance to top an American League team in the World Series?
Of course. I mean, you get in a 7-game series, anything can happen.
Anything can happen, but I think the AL is definitely stronger.
Yes. Well, I think the difference between the American League and the National League this year is with the exception of the Astros and the A's late on,
Right.
there was no. I mean, two of the teams had to play 163rd game just to see who gets seated well in the playoffs and where they're going and whatnot.
Right.
That helps build morale for a team and get momentum going into the playoffs, and that's big when it comes to playoff baseball.
Right.
The Astros rode that wave of momentum last year. You could be the best team during the regular season and start struggling towards the end of the year and start to fade, and get in the first round and just get dominated by a lesser team who's hot and playing well together and everything's rolling right for them. So you never know. Like, to me right now, the most dangerous team in the National League is the Brewers. What they're doing to end this year, they just knocked off the Cubs, no problem, to win that division and have the best record. It's a good, young, fun team, very similar to the Astros, very similar to the Cubs and Indians the year before, the Royals before that. If you start to see the trend of what's going on here, it's not these high-dollar teams. It's these teams who build these cores of young players who go out and play together and just have that want to win and fun and make it baseball what baseball's supposed to be. Yeah,
for sure. That's you couldn't have said it any better. I agree exactly with every word you just said with that one.
But that's part of the other thing that mirrors this matchup so well. The Indians are just like that as well. They did the same thing when they made their run 2 years ago. That team was so hot. They went, 22 games in a row they won. Hadn't been done over 50 years. Things like that are what matter when it's going into the playoffs. Boston's very similar too. They've got a young core. Their pitching's not as well, but I mean, when it comes to their lineup, it's just filthy.
Right. That'll be their undoing, I think, is why I don't.
Their pitching, yes. Yeah. But to kind of stick to the series, we talked about Altuve and Ramirez. Brought up Bregman, guy. To me, right now, he is the MVP. And I love Jose Ramirez. I think if he'd have stayed hot towards the end of the year, he had a real good shot to be a no-doubter. But just the end of the season Bregman had, plus what he did, I mean, everything combined, I don't see how you don't give to this game, to this guy. I think Betts and Ramirez are going to split a lot of votes in Boston. But it's Bregman's award to win this year, and I think he deserves it.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think the baseball writers or whoever's gonna vote him. It's gonna either be Betts or Ramirez or Martinez.
But see, they're gonna split.
That's possible, and I think Bregman, he's done everything you would want, and he's carried the team, and he's MVP. He's definitely in the conversation, but I just don't think they're gonna vote his way, unfortunately.
That's why we need you, Houston.
Yes, get out there. No, actually, it's on the baseball writers.
You
whoever.
have nothing to do with it. Sorry.
Well, those old guys don't know anything they're talking about anymore.
But looking on the other aspect of it, kind of the guy who doesn't fit what we've just been talking about, but was once that guy is Josh Donaldson, the Indians' new third baseman. Looks like he's healthy now. We're not expecting MVP Josh Donaldson to show up in the playoffs, but I mean, he's starting to get the power back. He's getting base hits. He seems healthy. That pickup late for them could be a difference maker in this series as well. If he can come in and just, they can ride him during a game. He got a huge grand slam the other night.
We got a question coming in for the Mad Chatter.
Hit me.
Josh Zellers wants to know, why is Jake Marisnick so good looking?
Diana, you want to help me with that?
It's the hair.
Is it the hair?
The locks, they just flow. He's running out there like a gazelle.
Well, luckily he's pretty because he's not that great at baseball. So
defensively, he's really great.
Well, defensively, he is, but the
elite defensive player.
Got him.
But I think Greg answered it for us. He said because God hates the rest of us.
Yes.
Touche, sir. Touche.
But I do have to say, Mr. Josh, who asked that question, in his prime, I bet he could have probably struck out a few of these guys when they were younger. He had a filthy curveball back in the day. He was quite the pitcher.
Who, Marisnick?
No, the guy who asked that question.
Oh.
So anyways.
Great question. Thank you, bud.
That was a horrible question. Josh, sorry.
It made Chad blush, so that's a good question.
Yeah, it made me speechless, and that's hard to do.
All right, we got a statement coming in from Diana. She's saying, Chad, if the Astros win the series, you have to rock the Speedo that Reddick has.
I second that.
Reddick retired the Speedo this year. He says he's going with a new gimmick.
So you've got to bring it back.
If the Indians win the World Series, I will rock the Speedo.
Guess we're not seeing the Speedo from Chad this year.
So you think?
Speedo's retired.
Okay, how do we get off so sidetracked like this?
It happens, brother.
I'm about to cut Joe and
We're out
Diana
here.
off. In
We're
these
out here
conversations.
entertaining the masses.
I'm here to educate
Dynasty
the
wise,
masses, not
with
entertain.
HP, you got to educate and entertain. You got to find the balance.
I am the balance. It's all good.
What did I miss? Oh,
Him being the balance.
Oh.
Me being the
Okay,
confident
the world is
a-hole I am.
speaking. They're saying, Diana, please, no. No one wants to see.
he will do it live. He will do it live.
I will do it live. If the Indians win the World Series, I will rock the Speedo down Crawford or Texas or whatever with my Indians flag flying behind me.
Hey, I'll tell you what. When the Astros win, I'll wear the G-string Speedo.
Yeah, I'll bust out my mankini.
Yeah, my girlfriend might not let me, but she's got to work sometime.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Outfield. The one guy who's kind of been the Indian killer in the series. The Indians Astros played 7 times this year. Astros won 4, Indians won 3. That's telling on how close these teams are matched up. But the one guy, looking over the game stats, every game they played, Springer was the guy that was just on fire against the Indians this year. Out of the 7 games, I want to say at least 4 or 5 of the games he had multiple hits, a couple home runs, RBIs. He's one of the hitters in this lineup that scares me for the Astros, especially if he gets going early. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the questions here. Leave it to my father to start getting off subject here, but anyway. So
At least
Springer,
he's an Astros fan.
yes, my dad is a very, very diehard Astros fan, very loyal. Watches
Legit
all the
question,
games.
though. Legit question.
What's the question? I can't read it fully.
He wants to know, what about Trout?
What about
does
Trout?
it every year.
He's not in the
so
playoffs.
Do you
What
respect
about
him too?
What about him? He's not in the playoffs.
But he does it every year. So do you respect him too? You already said.
What does he do every year?
He's been on record, right here. Mad Chatter's been on
Wait a
record.
second. What
to
does he
say
do every year?
That Trout is the best player since what? Mantle?
Oh, no, he is the best player since Mickey Mantle, period. And if anybody out there wants to try to argue with me, come at it. Let's do it.
I still won't pay him $500 million.
He's just
Well,
asking.
you don't have $500
do you
million
respect
to pay him,
Trout's
so.
game, or
You don't
Trout?
know that.
I know that. Yes, I fully respect Trout, the baseball player, Trout, the off the field person. He's the kind of guy you want your kids to try to model themselves after when it comes to a Major League Baseball player.
The nice guy that's never going to win anything.
He'll win something. He's already got more MVPs than every player in this Astros-Indians series combined. So
Oh, yeah?
yeah.
How many World Series rings he's got?
One less than the Astros and the same as the Indians.
And he might not ever get any, so
Well, he may not, but he may get 20. Who knows?
I doubt 20.
Well,
but
I doubt it
that'd
too.
be a
but
good
I
feat.
doubt he gets 0 as well.
Staying in Anaheim, 0. All right, on to the outfielders besides Jake Marisnik's sexy behind.
Tight tush.
The
Okay.
locks.
Keeping it tight.
This is the team you root for. The Speedo Reddick, the gentlemanly.
I'm gonna say it again. I'm just
handsome-
surprised Houston isn't impregnated by now.
That's all y'all.
TM.
there. That is all y'all.
You're looking a little plump. Has he gotten to you already?
Man, oh man, going way off here, guys.
Outfielders, Chad.
Outfielders, thank you.
Sorry, Bregman's running through his mind now.
I'm about to cut Joe's mic off.
I like the Astros outfield.
Yes, I do too. With the exception of Marwin, he can get some clutch hits and he's solid. He's not my favorite guy on the team. I like what he brings to the team. I think what he did last year was more the aberration than the norm. But he does get some clutch hits. Brantley came back, had a solid year for the Indians this year. All right,
Aiden poked his head through the curtain.
the gorilla. Yeah, I'm way off, guys. Y'all are
Hey,
killing me.
that's there's a lot going on. Outfielders and
I got Springer, Reddick, Marisnik as the backup, and Marwin, I guess, if he's in left. Yeah, I like that combination. He hasn't been his career year was last year, obviously, but
Yeah.
he's still there.
And on to the Indians, Brantley, solid year, batting close to 300, if not over. Really came back from the injury he had last year. Kipnis got moved to center field with the addition of Donaldson, and he's actually his bat started to come alive, and he's playing a lot better. He's playing a good defensive center field for being a second baseman. He's hit some big home runs here of late. It's that third outfield spot for the Indians that, that's kind of question. Melky Cabrera is the guy right now, manning the position, but they'll spell him with Geyer or Greg Allen, or they've got some different options there. But the Astros definitely have the upper hand in the outfield overall. The one thing about this Indians lineup, I have to say, which here's your little known fact that probably not many people do know. Every single starter in this Indians lineup has been an all-star at one point in their career. I don't know how many other teams can boast that, but it just kind of goes to the depth they have. They're just very solid. Astros are a little. They've got some guy. Astros have had a lot as well. Their bench has been a little more shaky this year as far as the production. I like Tyler White and Evan Gattis, switching off at DH. But the Indians counter that with Edwin Encarnacion, who's having a phenomenal season as well. Hitting dingers and actually a higher batting average for being up there in his age.
Yeah, I think it just all comes back. We're just gonna have a damn good series. At least that's what we're hoping for as baseball fans, right?
Yes. As a true baseball fan, I could not ask for a better matchup just to actually go and enjoy and watch the game. I'm going to be at Game 1, Section 127. I cannot wait. I will be rocking my Indians gear, and Diane will be rocking her Astros gear. I'll be loud and proud, and we'll see how it goes. But, Clayton, what is your prediction for the series?
Well, obviously, for me, I got the Astros winning. I think they actually win in 4.
Winning 4. So you're going to take, 2 at home and 1 on the road?
Actually, I think it would we would take 2 on the road and 1 at home. We have the best road record in baseball, best ever over the last 2 years. So I think actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they won at home. It's just they seem to not get started at home. So I think they'll get 1 at home, but I think they would actually get 2 on the road.
Hey, it's very possible. Personally, I think this series is going the full 5 games. And I think it comes down to in Game 5, if it's Verlander and Kluber going at it again, Kluber is going to make up for what he did last year against the Yankees, where he just, blew up and turned into, Mitch Williams instead of Corey Kluber. But I see Kluber beating Verlander in Game 5 in a 1-0, 2-1, very, very low scoring game that keeps the crowd out of it, and that's how they're going to be able to pull it off on the road. And that's just me personally. Either way, I'm going to win in this scenario because I get to root for a team, no matter who wins and loses. I really think the Indians have the slight edge in starting, and Andrew Miller in the playoffs, I just don't want to mess with, and that's why I'm going to give it to Cleveland. But, I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Right. All I'm saying is we're going back to back.
Do you realize how hard it is to do?
Yeah, it's real hard.
It's not a very common thing in baseball for teams to win back-to-back World Series. It's been done, since the early, 1900s, early teens. Yeah. I don't think it's been done more than 5 or 6 times.
Right.
Stephanie's starting to get a following in our comment section right now. She says Stroh's in 4.
Exactly. We're all going Stroh's in 4. Kevin's saying Stroh's in 4.
Stros will be there in 4 games, but the 5th one is where they're going to lose it.
And, Greg, that actually sounds like a great idea next week.
What's that?
He says he's off and would love to come come
for
up.
next week's pod, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because we'll have some actual games to talk about possibly next week.
Right.
We'll see what the schedule pulls up for next week.
Well, it starts Friday, right? Is game one
Yes,
Friday?
game 1's Friday, game 2's Saturday, so that means game 3 will probably be Monday night. So we may not be potting Monday night next week. We may, we'll see. We'll figure that slot out next week. But
maybe at post game. Maybe we'll do a little
maybe
post game
later
action.
or early. Who knows? We'll figure that out. But is there any other questions that kind of came up along the way that we might want to hit over before we?
We're caught up.
Yep, Stroh's in 4.
Someone said Stroh's in 3.
Oh, what's up, Danny?
Danny, the bats ain't what ain't going to be what's doing the series. You got it off there. The pitching is what's going to win the series. It's not going to be the bats.
Best bullpen in.
I like the way Danny thinks though.
Yeah, you think it.
Stroh's in 3.
Think it all you want.
It's all right. It will happen. I don't think there's going to be a sweep. I think both teams are too good, but you never know. But like I said, Stroh's in 4.
The pressure is on Houston in this series, not Cleveland. The pressure's on Houston to come out and have to defend. They're the ones that have it on right now to have to go. The Indians are going to be able to play loose and free. They've been able to rest their guys. Astros had to fight a little longer. That has a possibility of making a little bit of a difference in the series as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's I'm being a homer, he's being a homer, whatever. I mean, when you look at it realistically, that's the way it is.
Sweep, Brandon Schultz. He's sweep. Stroh's fans coming out of the woodworks for the
predictions. Good. Astros fans come out. I love the Astros. I'm going to support them, except for when they're playing my team.
That's what this pod's for, man.
But I tell you, I love Houstonians and I love fans of teams and everything. But you're called fans for a reason.
Right.
You're fanatics. You think in extremes. So let's at some point it's not about that. But cheer your team on. I love seeing it.
And speaking, if you love Houston and Houstonians and Houston sports, make sure you jump on over to hptx.us and follow Houston Preeminence on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've partnered up with them where we're bringing you a lot of good content as far as MMA, fantasy football, baseball with the Mad Chatter. I'm just the guest today. He's got the knowledge. I'm just here to bring the homer perspective and go Stros in 4.
Yeah, I love kicking this podcast off. Right as playoff baseball starting. Because then we get into this thing full on. But this podcast is going to continue in the off season through to the World Series to next year. We'll hit everything, hot stove with the Astros and whatnot. So going into the future, Dynasty wise, Houston Preeminence, the Mad Chatter podcast, it's going to be your source for Astros baseball.
Yeah, we might have to do some post-game stuff this year.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I know it'll be late, but
sure. Yeah, and everybody look at when Preeminence,
baseball.
when we get it out to Preeminence and everything, we're going to have more than just these. We'll have some live programming and some late night stuff. So yeah, you'll see us talking baseball, football, everything. So. Well, this is Chad signing off for Dynasty Wise.
And we'll
can't
see
wait to
Wednesday night for Dynasty Wise Fantasy
yes,
Football.
Catch us on Wednesday.
Thanks for having me on, Chad. Dynasty Wise.
The Mad Chatter.
Chatter.